Good afternoon. My name is Lori Leek, and I am starting the recording process, documenting of my fourth fast for either an insulin ratio of 40 or for 48 hours, whichever comes first. And this is Sunday afternoon, July 12th. This is the fourth weekend that I have started this fasting routine of mine, and I will spend the process recording little video clips to string together to show what happens during this fast. So my husband and I, we had our Sunday lunch, and I will put up a picture of what that looks like. It was a wonderful lunch of a grilled cheese sandwich and some soup, but it wasn't just any grilled cheese sandwich or any soup. So I'll put up a picture of that. And that was about 2-3 hours ago. And so I've been fasting since then, since we finished our meal. And I just took my numbers. I took a glucose of 94 and an insulin of 0.1, which means that 2 hours after the meal, I have an insulin ratio of 940, which is high. There are 4 targets that I keep in mind as taught by Dr. Boz from YouTube, DRBOZ, and she has taught me about insulin ratios. I don't follow her ketogenic diet. I alternate between doing some low carb eating and some high carb eating, because as well as listening to Dr. Boz, I'm also listening to Cyrus Kambata and Robbie Barbaro of Mastering Diabetes, and they are promoting a diet that is supposed to increase one's sensitivity to insulin, which would be the opposite of being insulin resistant. So anyway, this is the first video clip, and there'll be many more strung together during the course of the next probably 40 some odd hours before I reach my ratio. During my fast, I will use a few tools. I will use this kit that contains my Dario glucose meter, my Keto Coach ketone meter, so that I can get those two numbers, glucose and ketones, to divide them and find out what my insulin ratio is. I also drink black coffee that is unsweetened without cream. And I will drink unsweetened tea, or I will make sure to drink lots of water. That's a 32-ounce container of water. I also take my supplements. I must take my prescription potassium, and I use magnesium, and these are a couple omega-3 capsules. I will also be using plenty of salt crystals. So these are my tools while I fast. I thought I was going to be faithful to record during the whole fast, but I haven't. I let some things take precedence. I let myself be distracted by other things. So I did not record it all yesterday during the fast. But what I will do is show you my record of the fast yesterday. So that was Monday, and I did fast through the whole day, and I was glad to make it through last night, because usually evening time is the hardest time of a fast for me. So now I'm going to show you the record from yesterday and through today. It is now Tuesday afternoon, and I thought I would be closer to my goal of reaching an insulin ratio of 40 of glucose divided by ketones to let me know what my ratio is. And the target ratio I've been going for these past 4 weeks is to fast for a insulin ratio of 40, or to fast for 48 hours. And right now, I've actually, I'm coming up on 48 hours. I'm about 10 minutes away from 48 hours. And so then I had to decide, well, am I going to keep fasting for a ratio of insulin, or am I going to call it quits at 48 hours? And to me, the most important thing about fasting is not so much the amount of time I fast as what I do to my insulin. So since it's still the afternoon, and maybe my insulin ratio will come down before dinner, before Steve gets home for dinner, I think I'm going to just keep fasting, because my higher goal is the insulin ratio, not the hours. So now I'm going to show you my record from my health record of taking all the readings that I've done so far, and I'll talk you through that. This is what my health sheet looks like, and this covers yesterday, which was Monday, when I didn't do any recording, and it brings us up to date on today. So let me come in on Monday's blood numbers. I didn't produce a lot of ketones. I had a good morning waking glucose, and actually my glucose looked really good all day long. But because ketones were low, in the column where let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the sixth column over from the left that starts with 430, that shows the insulin ratio, and my insulin ratio was all day long really above the 200 mark, which Dr. Boz indicates is high insulin. So that's what I've been fasting for, is waiting for that insulin ratio of glucose divided by ketones to be brought down. So last night I went to bed I didn't go to bed at 7:14, but the last number I took was at 7:14 p.m. and I had a insulin ratio of 220. So then what I woke up to this morning was an insulin ratio that had dropped down to 102. But part of the reason I haven't been recording is because I've been having something else I've been dealing with, and I think that something else is also raising my cortisol and raising some stress. And so even though I've continued fasting, you see the glucose numbers are a little bit higher, and the insulin, even after, let's see, how many hours fasted was that? Well, I didn't write that down, so okay. But right now, I'm sure it's 48 hours if I looked at the clock, at 1:49, I still have an insulin ratio after 48 hours of fasting that's at 129. So that's why I think I'm going to keep fasting a little bit longer. I'm fine. I'm comfortable. I'm not raging with hunger. And so I fast on, because the real point, even though I could end at this 48-hour mark, the real point is for me fasting for healthy insulin ratio. And I am down below 200 now. So these ratios of, under 200, the 220 and below, those are good ratios. It's just that I'm going for an insulin ratio of 40, which Dr. Boz indicates that I would be repairing my immune system. That would be cleaning up some old cells, and the body would be scavenging and turning them into new, more useful cells. Oh, and I'm going to point out this blood pressure number. That is a high blood pressure for me first thing in the morning. So
it's another indication to me that I'm under a bit of stress with what's going on, and everything's okay, it's manageable, but I can tell that stress does affect the body.
While I wait for my insulin ratio to come down, I'm working here in the kitchen to make tonight's dinner, and I decided I want to break my fast with carbs. So I know there's lots of different dietary philosophies, and my philosophy is to go back and forth between the fuels of carbs and the fuels of fats. So some of my diet is low carb keto, and some of my diet is high carb, low fat. I'm basically listening to two voices, Dr. Annette Bosworth, Dr. Boz, D-R-B-O-Z, on YouTube, when it comes to the benefits of ketones in the brain and low insulin levels. She's the one that's taught me about my insulin ratio. But I'm also listening to the Mastering Diabetes guys, Cyrus Kambata and Robbie Barbero of Mastering Diabetes, and I will link an appearance that they had on a podcast that's called the Biohacking Podcast, hosted by Melanie Avalon, and they explain about what can happen. The studies show that we can make ourselves insulin resistant or insensitive to insulin by having a lot of fat in our diet over and over and over again. So they answer questions about that for Melanie Avalon. They also answer if you're going to eat a meal that is based on carbs and then you're going to switch to a meal that's based on fats, is there a better order of which meal to have first? Is it better for your body to have the carbs first, or is it better for your body to have the fats first? And I loved hearing that answer because that fits in with my years of doing Trim Healthy Mama. Now, Trim Healthy Mama didn't recommend which fuel to have first, but they do recommend fuel separating. And so that's what I was doing from 2013 up to when, and even a little bit beyond, when I started eating according to my glucose meter, to use my glucose numbers as my fuel gauge instead of eating every 3 to 4 hours. So since I decided to cook a meal of carbs tonight, I've gotten out some things to start cooking dinner. I've got a pot of rice going over there on the stovetop that's simmering. I plan to cut up, I have some papaya over there, so I know that I'm gonna cook some papaya, not cook it, I'm eating it raw. And I pulled out a couple of packages of black beans that I have cooked ahead, so I had those in the freezer. The black beans are going to get turned into a salad with some green onion that I had in the fridge, as well as little tiny bits of minced red onion. I'm going to use a fuel pull dressing. So fuel pull means it's low in both fats and carbs. So there's really not much to speak of here for fats and carbs if I don't use a whole quantity. So I'm going to use this as a dressing, the black beans, the rice, the red onion, the green onion. I'm also, for a little bit of tang and saltiness, going to use, I had some capers in the refrigerator, pulled those out. What else am I going to put in the salad? Oh, I'm going to put tomatoes in the salad. So there'll be the white of the rice, and it's a long grain rice, so that will look nice. The white of the rice, the black of the black beans, the flavor from the onions, and also a little bit of crunch from them. Speaking of crunch, I'll probably put in some sliced celery. The tang from the capers, and the dressing has tang to it as well, and it's got spiciness. I'll probably use some, I have parsley in the fridge, and parsley is very nutritious, so I'll cut some of that up. And the tomato. I think that's all that I'm going to mix up into the salad. Anyway, that's one aspect of our meal. Steve doesn't care for the papaya, so that's going to be all mine. I'm probably going to sprinkle some chia seeds on the papaya. Well, I'm thinking about it. The other way I could go is just to squeeze fresh lime over it and lots of chili powder and salt and have the papaya that way. But that's as far as I've gotten on my dinner plan right now. I am going to bake some chicken thighs. They've got the bone in and the skin on, and I will include a little piece about why that is a good idea for our health. Something I learned from Trim Healthy Mama. I probably am not going to have any of the chicken because there's fat in here, and since I really want to have carbs tonight or when I get to eat, I'm going to work on keeping my fats out. I'm going to focus on carbs. And so I'm baking the chicken for his sake because I don't think he's going to want to just have carbs. Yeah, I think that's the case. So anyway, what I'm going to do is sprinkle these chicken thighs with some smoked paprika and salt and pepper. What else will I use? So I got the pepper out. Here goes the pepper, and then I'll do the salt. And I'm going to use some garlic powder. The nice thing about baking them on the sheet with aluminum foil is I'll just be able to gather that up after baking and throw it away, and the cleanup will be really easy. So this is baking chicken thighs is a very easy thing to do. I won't have to pay any attention to it. Just put it in the oven and make sure it doesn't burn. I'm also going to sprinkle some Parmesan on top. I don't think that'll burn. I think it'll make it a nice addition. And then the last thing I'm going to do is probably spray it with a little bit of fat. This is just something I think I got from Walmart, organic extra virgin olive oil spray. I'd prefer to use an avocado spray for the high heat, but this is what I've got right now. I figured that this tray is probably going to take maybe up to an hour to bake, and it's 3:30 now, and Steve might be home at 5, so I want to bake it now so that even if I have to hold it until he gets home, dinner's ready when he walks through the door because he's been fasting today. I just had a hunger wave, a wave of hunger, or a hunger pang, I should have said. Hunger comes in waves when you're fasting, and so I just, what I'm going to do is take some salt crystals. I probably have 4 of them here. See if you can see that in the camera. And so I'll just dissolve those in my mouth, and that I will enjoy the salt, and salt is good for you when you're fasting. That was the oven letting me know it's up to temperature. So that's how I deal with some of my hunger pangs when I'm fasting. I'm now working on putting together the black bean rice salad thing that I'm making. And so I got out the celery to cut that up, and I want to show you that I just went ahead and cut the whole stalk up. Some of it will be used in the salad. I'll see how much I need when I start putting it together. But the end of it, I decided to save some for celery sticks. I got myself a little short on them. Usually I try to cut them to the right length for the jar here. But at any rate, I'm going to put this celery in a jar, and then I'm going to cover it with water, and that'll help it from kind of drying out and turning brown. And that will go in the fridge, and then if I feel like having some celery sticks for something, I guess it wasn't too bad that I made it short because I can fit in this way too. Then I will have some celery to use for celery sticks if I want. And so I'm just gonna fill this up with water. Actually, this is sticking over and that one won't fit, so I'll cut that up too and add it to that pile. But now that will keep the celery nice in the fridge, preserve it a little bit. So it's just ready to snack on. And then this end part, I'm gonna put that in the freezer in some of my vegetable scraps. I keep a bag of vegetable scraps in the freezer. I've shown that on another video, but I need to go, I can't even remember if I started a new bag, so I need to go check on that. Well, I hadn't started a new bag, so I went and pulled out another 2-gallon bag, and I'm gonna start filling this with vegetable scraps, and when that gets filled, I put it in the Instant Pot and pressure cook it to make my own vegetable broth to use in soups. So as I cut up these peppers, the scraps from the peppers will go in, and it doesn't need to be wasted. It turns into a nice vegetable broth. This was the most recent batch of vegetable broth I made. That's why I don't have any scraps. A scrap bag started because I just barely made some. So it's a very nice dark looking vegetable broth, and there were all kinds of things in there. Onion peels and the celery ends, and if I had ends from asparagus, they went in there. Pretty much everything that is a vegetable scrap will go in. And then it gets processed, and so the next thing I need to do is put this in quart-sized baggies and freeze them flat. See, I just pulled out of the freezer an example of one of the quart-sized baggies from the last batch. So I think it's time to be making some bean soup maybe. Back to throwing together the salad. So there's the black beans. I figured 2 bags of these would be enough. And then the next thing I'll throw in is just kind of eyeball how much celery I want in the salad. Kind of a ratio. I think, yeah, you can see that. Take a little bit more. This will give it nice crunch. So I think that's about right for the celery, and this seems like the right amount of capers to give it the tang, and I'm pretty sure I'm pleased with that amount of chopped green onion. That was left over from another recent meal the last couple days. So since I have this left over, I'm gonna go to the back freezer and get my big bag of frozen celery slice, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. So this is the bag I had in the freezer. This is a 2-gallon bag. And what I'll do is just add to it. So it's very nice to use these flexible mats. They're easy for me to lift up. They fit in the mouth of the 2-gallon bag really nicely. And just slide the contents in. Normally, with this large amount of celery, I would lay it, if it wasn't frozen, if I started with a big mound of celery, I would lay it out on a cookie sheet and let it freeze solid before I put it in the bag. But this is just a small amount of celery I'm adding to it, and it won't clump together hard, and I can just throw this back in the freezer. So while I cut up this red onion, I'll explain my thoughts behind having the frozen prepped veggies in my freezer, and that is that when I go to make a casserole or a soup or something where it doesn't have to have fresh veggies, I can throw those pre-cut celery slices, or I keep onion there. I also do green pepper, and there's another kind of pepper I have in there. I'm trying to think what it is. can't come up with it. It's not jalapeno. It's another green pepper that's kind of strong, but not a lot of heat. So there goes the red onion. And I just like to have those veggies prepped so that they're there and I can use them. Now, as I told you, I put veggie scraps in that 2-gallon bag and fill it up. And then that gets processed into a vegetable broth that I can use in making soups, and also if I need liquid for casseroles and stuff. So anyway, that I will cut those peppers up and they'll go in the salad. I know I didn't talk about adding them in when I was first showing what I was putting in the salad, but when I was in the fridge I saw the peppers and thought they would make a nice addition for more color in this bean rice salad. And the dressing that I'm using, this smoke and chipotle dressing that I said is a fuel pull, which is low in fat, low in carbs. That's a recipe out of the Trim Healthy Mama cookbook. I think it's in Trim Healthy Table, but I will put that information in the description area for the video. And I don't know if it's a public recipe or not. I don't know if they've shared it on their Facebook fan page. If it is, I'll provide a link to that too. Otherwise, I can't share it because that would be violating their copyright. If they've shared it publicly, I will share it, but if not, then I won't either. Okay, so there's, oh, I should probably take the lid off the rice and let that cool a little bit because it has finished cooking. And I don't want it to go into the salad completely hot. As a matter of fact, I could stir it up, break up the rice, and let that sit in the fridge to, just to cool off a little bit while I'm cutting up these veggies. So I think I'll do that. That's going to make a nice colorful salad with the red pepper, the yellow pepper. There's going to be crunch in it because of the celery. There's black beans. There's going to be the contrast of the white rice in here in a little bit when I decide to throw that in. And I will dress it with this smoke and chipotle dressing. Probably could just go ahead and pour some over it to start it getting the flavors married together. A lot of my cooking is just done by sight. Does it look good? I do look at recipes and I do go by some recipes, but once I get an idea of what's going on, I wing it after that. Oh, this smells so good. Okay, so I'm gonna put that in the fridge. Now, just in case you wanted to make sure you had protein with this, which I'm gonna have protein because it's gonna have the rice and the beans in it, which is a complete protein together. But if someone was worried about getting more protein and they wanted to stay lean, not using fat, a bunch of fat added to this, they could use canned solid white tuna or cooked chicken breast would be another lean protein. So those are the ones that come to mind quickly. I thought I'd take a look at the chicken and see how it's coming along. So it's browning nicely, but I'm estimating that it's got another good 20 minutes to bake. So if it's 3:55 right now, that means that it'll be ready by 4:30 probably. I was just about to mix the white rice into the beans and put those flavors together, but I thought about it, and this is a really nice long grain white rice. I'll show you. Very long separate grains. And
I think I will enjoy that more if I can just feel the grains in my mouth, not kind of combined in with this bean salad. And the bean salad is great. It can just stand alone. So I think I'm going to leave these two things separate. I will eat the rice without any fat added to it. I will put salt and pepper on it, maybe use some cumin, I'm not sure. I don't have to have it hot. I might leave it room temperature. It did cool down a little bit in the fridge, but not a whole lot. I'm going to put this back in the fridge to chill. But it just sounded good to me to enjoy the rice by itself and have that texture alone in my mouth when I eat my meal. I brought out some cherries. I plan on eating some cherries that I got the other day. And I may turn these little roasted potatoes that have the tiniest bit of fat sprayed on them when they baked. I may turn those into a little bit of a potato salad with some vinegar and salt and pepper. Maybe some onion too, but I haven't gotten that far. Anyway, I'm just thinking out loud to you. I'm going to show you the rice that I cooked up. I had a little bit left of this skinny rice. A white basmati rice, but it says that it has the benefits of brown rice, that it's slow release carbohydrates. I won't read the other propaganda. Oh, it does say low GI, glycemic index. And I got this, I ordered it off from Amazon, and I think it came in a set of 3 or 4 bags, I don't remember, but I'll put a link to that in the description. I like this rice because it's those long, very separate grains when I cook it. And it doesn't take a long time to cook. You boil it, bring it to boil in water, and it cooks for 12 to 15 minutes. So it's fast too. I guess that would mean it's a parboiled rice. It's been over an hour since I tested my numbers, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that now and see where I'm at on my insulin ratio. I haven't actually taken any numbers on this video, so I'm going to go ahead and show you. This is my Dario meter, or my Dario kit actually. The test strips are here in this end under the caps, so I'm going to pull out a couple test strips. There's 2. Put the cap back on, and then this end is where the needle is. So I'll pull that off and show you. There is, you probably just barely can see, there's a needle there. Put the cap back on. So all I have to do is I pull this thing down here, pull that down, and that cocks it, and then I push the button here, and that makes it snap. So it's that's how that works. And then this is my Keto Coach meter to take the blood ketones with. And I'm getting a test strip out to use with that. I will put a discount code, which is just my name, Lori Leak, in the checkout. But I'll put that in so that if you are interested in looking at Keto Coach, I think to get the meter kit to start with, it's $50 without my discount, and my discount is for 10%, and then that means it's going to knock $5 off the price, and shipping's included. I do recommend you go ahead and get some test strips. If you're going to order the kit, you're going to need the test strips. They only send you a few to start you off with. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the blood, and today is the, what is today? 024. Oh, it's the 14th. I've been using this finger all day. So when I test myself, my left is spelled with 4 letters, so I do my even numbers. 4 is an even number on this hand. Right is spelled with 5 letters, that's odd number of letters. I do my odd numbers on this hand. So it's 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. And then on this hand, I do 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And that way, all fingers get equally abused. I better put this strip back in again. So now time to draw the drop of blood. Oops,
sorry, I forgot one thing. I need to actually get the meter itself out of here. That pops in and out of here. So there's a lever here that you pull back on, and that raises the meter up. So the actual meter is just this little device here. And this is for iPhone, but they have one for Androids too. So that goes in here. I can use it on my iPhone or my iPad. Now I'm ready with a test strip. Talking and doing something at the same time can be challenging, right? So draw a drop of blood. And the keto coach likes a fairly decent sized drop of blood. So, and that goes in, the pipette end gets stuck into the blood. And then I can just touch the pipette end to the drop of blood. So we'll find out in a second. I have 1.0 ketones, so even ketones. I'm surprised by the 113 of glucose. I am going to retest that. So I'm going to just double check it because that seems a little high for me. But maybe talking to you and rushing through some of this has caused my glucose to go up. And yes, I'm sticking my finger in my mouth because your saliva has healing properties. Something's not right here. 130. This is not making Daria look good. I'm going to do it again. I want to get an agreement on some number and not have such wide variations. I wonder if it's because I was cooking and I've got food residue on my hands. I don't know. Hopefully after 3 drops of blood, that's cleared away a little bit. 97. Okay, still going to work on getting agreement. And I will wipe off this blood and start fresh again. I thought there was a tissue, just a second. Okay, I had to go over and get a tissue. Usually it's right here, up here on the counter. So one more drop of blood. I usually don't have to test 4 times. Usually it's 2. I kind of double check it. 86. So now I'm going to look at all the numbers, what they were, logbook. Okay, this whole thing did not make Daria look good. I got a 113, which I thought was high. Then 130, which I knew something wasn't right. 97 and 86. This is the first time I think that I'm going to take a 5th reading because I want some agreement in here. I don't even want this 10-point spread between the 86 and 97, which is actually an 11-point spread. So one more number, and somebody better agree with somebody. 89. Okay, so that was similar to the 86. I'm going to go now with the 86 because I've been fasting now for, let me pull up that fasting app, the Life app, and show you how long I've been fasting for over the 48 hours. Because I'm going for the insulin ratio. So I don't know how much this is going to show. I got to see. It's probably not the best idea to try to show you, but 50 hours. So I've been fasting for 50 hours. Let me do the calculations on that, 86. I think that's what it was. I want the calculator. All right. Or I can smell the chicken. It smells good. 86 divided, no, I don't want an add. I don't want to do that. 86 divided by, well, of course, it's 108. It's 86. 1.0 was the number. Didn't need to do that for math. Just wasn't thinking. 1.0. So my insulin ratio is 86, and let me enter that into my sheet. It's now come on, do your thing here, 4:12 p.m., 86 and 1.0, and Steve has this set up to do the calculations for me. So insulin ratio of 86, I did it on the calculator to show you how it looks. And a GKI, in case that's a number that you're familiar with, just another measurement. It's insulin ratio in another form, glucose ketone index versus the Dr. Boz ratio, 4.8. So I'm going to keep fasting, and I'm wondering, let me get myself on camera here in a second. Now this may be the first time that I fasted this long that I haven't gotten down to a lower insulin ratio. And I think that's proving to me that stress can definitely have an effect on insulin. I know it's connected to cortisol, and I don't know how all that works, so I can't explain it in layman terms. But I went to bed last night with something heavy on my heart, red to kind of clear my mind and get it off my mind so I could go to sleep. But I woke up with it on my heart, burdening me this morning. And it's been an issue pretty much all day long. I've resolved it, and I'm going to move on. But stress does play a part in how our bodies function. So maybe this was just an example to me of me being affected by stress. So I find that very interesting because I've not eaten, I've not broken my fast. My numbers were good yesterday. My glucose numbers were good. It was, but then in the afternoon is when the whole issue was on my mind. So anyway, controlling our thoughts to the best of our ability, controlling our lives to manage them so we're not putting ourselves under stress is a good idea. So now back to cooking. I have these little roasted potatoes, and I'm gonna cube them up. Not all of them. I don't think Steve will enjoy this salad with the vinegar on it as much as I will. So I'm only going to do some of these potatoes because he will definitely enjoy them more as in the form they're in, just roasted potatoes. What I plan to mix these with is vinegar, and because they're cold, I know that they offer the benefit of resistant starch, and if I can find a link to share with you, I'll put that in the video too. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Maybe another video I'll point you to. But resistant starch is supposed to be really good for the gut microbiome, to feed the bacteria. That's as far as I can explain that. So I'll just keep cutting this up and then probably add maybe some onion to it, red onion probably. I forgot to add the parsley to the bean salad, and I still could do that, but as I'm cutting these up, I'm thinking, well, maybe the parsley would be good to add the color and a little bit of texture change to these. And what I'm thinking with this potato salad is, or potatoes made into a salad, is along the lines of a potato salad that you'd make with mayonnaise, but I don't want the fat. I could substitute some of my drained milk kefir, but I don't think that's going to give me the flavor I want. And I've heard about using vinegar with the potatoes, so that's why I'm thinking of doing that. And the vinegar will be, I haven't decided whether I'm going to do a rice wine vinegar or a white wine vinegar or an apple cider vinegar. I definitely am not going to do a balsamic because that would discolor the potatoes. And what I'm trying to kind of eyeball here is enough salad, enough content so that I could eat as much as I want of this. I would have enough to serve Steve in case he likes it, but if he doesn't like it, I will get the leftovers, and then I'm leaving him some potatoes left in the form that I know he will like. And for the sake of keeping the refrigerator orderly, I'm just gonna downsize the container of the potatoes. And I pulled my parsley out, and I did a video earlier that's in my collection about saving your greens. One thing is I wrap my greens in paper towel to absorb the moisture so they don't spoil as fast. And so I'm gonna eyeball about how much I'm gonna use here, probably this amount, and that'll get chopped up and put in. So I decided to show you that I just lay the parsley down and kind of run down the stalks finely, and I go all the way down. I use the stem part. So I've got stem here, but I'm gonna put that in. It's really no different than having the kind of crunchy little pieces of celery. And I suppose I could have put some celery in here too if I wanted, but I think the crunch from these little pieces of parsley, the color of the parsley, I think that'll be enough. And I am gonna get the red onion. Put the parsley away in the bag. Parsley keeps really well in the fridge, much longer than lettuce will. And it's so nutritious for you. I said I was gonna get the red onion, but I don't have any more red onion, so I'll be putting just a Vidalia white onion in here. So the potato and the parsley and the onion, let's throw that in here. Start the onion. I'm bringing you up close to show you how I like to cut my onion. When I slice it as thinly as I can this way. When I was a young girl, I didn't like raw onion in salads. And when I grew up and started cooking, well, I started cooking when I was young, but when I grew up and sort of was developing my own style of cooking, I realized why I didn't like onion, because it was too big of pieces. And so then I started this very thin slice method to try to just get really tiny pieces of onion so that it was mixed in little bits and not big chunky pieces that kind of overpowered a bite. And so this is how I tend to cut up my onion when I want to put it in a salad. Just the little tiny pieces if I can. And that may be too much for this salad. I'm gonna look. Remember I said I cook by sight, so I'm gonna throw some in. I don't want to overpower it. I want it as an accent. So that looks like it's gonna be about right. And then the vinegar is gonna go in there. So I decided on the apple cider vinegar, and I just sort of splash it over. I think that's about right. And the ubiquitous salt and pepper seasonings. I want a good amount of salt and some pepper. And I want just a little dusting of cayenne, a little bit. And then I think that some garlic powder would be good in here. So that's a dusting of that. And then that all just gets stirred up. And this will be my cold potato salad. We'll see what Steve thinks of it. I may be eating all of this by myself over the course of 2 meals. It smells good. See, that's the hard part about fasting for me, is I don't taste
when I cook. So I really have to be careful of what I'm doing. But I think that's gonna be good. I brought you over to the chicken, and that is done. And I turned off the oven. And so I'm just gonna leave the oven kind of propped open a little bit if I can. Keep some heat in there, but hold it until Steve is ready to eat. So I just went to look up information on glycine and proline. I pulled out my Trim Healthy Mama plan book, and I also looked up on the internet. So glycine and proline can be found in chicken skin, having chicken cooked on the bone with the skin on and eating the skin. And glycine and proline are amino acids. What else does it say? And they support the immune system. So I'm reading from the Trim Healthy Mama. They've got a list here of things. So support the immune system, release fat-burning glucagon. Glucagon is the opposite hormone to insulin. And so this helps your body release glucagon. It aids in sleep, eases insomnia, improves digestion, helps to heal a leaky gut, detoxifies the liver, decreases allergies and food intolerances, increases production of human growth hormone. Well, fasting does that too, actually. Boosts the metabolism, and fasting does that too, up until about 72 hours, I think. The metabolism continues to increase while you're fasting until about that 72-hour mark, and then it doesn't keep increasing, I guess. And then it helps to satiate and dampen cravings. So I've learned a lot from Pearl and Serene, the Trim Healthy Mama sisters. Their plan book gives a lot of nutritional information. I love their original book that is 600 pages that was self-published. I'll put links for these books in the description. I have a little bit of onion left over that I'm gonna scrape up and put in a baggie for another cooking job that I'll have at some point soon. In Trim Healthy Mama's defense, or maybe it's my defense, I don't know which way you'd look at it, but they do not promote fasting like I do. I go against the grain, so to speak. They recommend eating every 3 to 4 hours, but that wasn't helping me after my hormones changed with going through menopause, and that's how I came to intermittent fasting. So I do want to say that as Trim Healthy Mama, I'm not following it that way, but I use a lot of their recipes. I have learned a lot nutritionally from them, and I benefit from that. So I point people to Trim Healthy Mama. I like the idea of the fuel separation. I do that. And I have onion skin for that bag of vegetable scraps that I'm saving in the freezer until I can make some more vegetable broth. Okay, husband is on his way home, and it's time for me to do another blood test reading and see where I'm at. Okay. I do not test ketones all the time because the test strips run me, I think, about 60 cents a piece. But when I want to know my insulin ratio in order to break a fast, that's definitely what I'm going to do, is test my insulin ratio. So let's see here. 83, 0.6. So ketones, 0.6, they went down a little bit, but blood sugar's looking better. I think I have settled down a little bit, and I'm not so wrapped around the axle. And I'm feeling relaxed because dinner is ready and Steve's on his way home. But I don't think I'm gonna get my ratio. So 87, 0.6,
what was that other number? 83? I'm going to go with the 83 and give myself the best advantage because I can do that. 83 for glucose divided by 0.6, 138. So no, I'm not going to make that ratio of 140, which is I'm not 140, of 40, which is very interesting to me. Interesting. So my Life app tells me I've been fasting for 51 hours. And if I use the plus button, I can advance it up in time to see if I waited till tomorrow morning, say if I waited until 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. to break my fast, and I don't know what my ratio will be then, I will have fasted 67 hours. And so what is 72 hours would be tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Now, I haven't done any 72-hour fasts recently. I'm going to put this time back. Now, I can leave it set out to 72 hours because that doesn't change the time here that shows me I've been fasting for 51 hours. I'll talk that over with Steve and see if he's okay with me continuing to fast because, well, let me go back on camera. I've done at least 2 72-hour fasts, and after them, we're not sure if it was because of the length of the fast. I had an episode of vertigo, and it was in kind of close timing to those 72-hour fasts. So we were just connecting the two together, causality. Not saying it was the fault of the fast that I had the vertigo, but I told him I wouldn't do any more longer fasts. He asked me to stick to 48 hours. So I'm probably going to discuss it with him tonight at the dinner table and see what he says. I don't know. I want to do it, but I'm not going to do it behind his back. So to keep busy until he gets home, I'm going to go ahead and make a dessert to go along with the dinner that he will be eating. Maybe I'll be eating it with him, depending on what he says about the fasting length. So I'm going to use my homemade milk kefir and some frozen Maine blueberries to make a shake. And this is something that I could hold in the fridge for myself as well. So that's what I'm going to do while he's driving home. I may or may not show you on camera. We'll see. Well, I did not record making the blueberry shake for you to see. That'll just have to wait for another video. Actually, my video from this fast for insulin ratio of 40 or a fast until I hit 48 hours turned out to be as much one of my in the kitchen videos as it was fasting for 40 or 48. So I decided to not even push the issue with Steve and even run it by him whether or not I would extend my fast. I just leaned on the fact that we have talked a couple of times about the 72-hour fast, and he's comfortable with me doing a 48-hour fast, and I wanted to sit down and have dinner with him instead of just sitting at the table with him. So I decided to go ahead and break my fast because I had reached 48 hours, so that part was a success. But I'm calling this fast one of my draws. I've had a failed 48-hour fast. I've had a win 48 fast. And this one I'm calling a draw because the highest goal for me is actually to reach the insulin ratio of glucose divided by ketones so that I know that I have my insulin down there at that 40 mark that Dr. Boz indicates is repairing the immune system. But it just didn't turn out this time. So you know, I had a couple of factors that might be the reason. I started the fast with a very complicated combined meal. Complicated because it was not just carbs and it was not just fats. It was rich in both. I had the grilled cheese sandwich that was the homemade sourdough bread. I had the soup. I had the big bowl of cherries. And there were other things that I ate as well, but that probably isn't the best choice. If I want to put on weight or maintain weight, or keep my glucose, I don't know if I'm keeping it elevated up there or not. I'm still learning so much about my own body chemistry, but I don't think it's in my best interest to combine fuels like that, but it sure was an enjoyable meal. And given the opportunity, I'd have that meal all over again. But the other thing was the stress that I was under starting Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. I was having something I was dealing with, and I was wrestling through it in my mind, and I was cogitating over it. So, and that went on into Monday. Or maybe it started Monday. I can't remember, because actually I resolved it in my mind and I came to peace with it and I settled down over it. It's done and over with. I can't go back and change anything. But it reminds me of another time where I saw my numbers rise because of stress. And in that case, it was a very happy, celebratory stress. But something like that, when emotions run high, I guess that is a stress on the body. And so the chemistry changes, and there's more, there's higher glucose number, and therefore a lower ketone number and a higher insulin ratio. So now maybe I have an example of both a really happy stress and a very frustrating stress affecting my numbers. At least that's what may have happened with this particular fast. So this one I'm calling a draw. It was completed, but it didn't kind of win on the side that I wanted to, which was the insulin ratio. So thank you for sticking with me through the video. It's a long, rambling video, I know.